Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I am super excited because we have Monte Cox in the house today. What I obviously love about you, Monte, is your energy. Like that was the immediate first instant thing that drew me to you. How are you?
I'm good, Mama. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I have Monte on the show today because I met you, Monte, when we, through COVID, we were kind of in the same networks and stuff like that. And I saw you from afar, and you're connected to like several people that I'm connected to. And I thought you were such a cool dude, right? You were just always full of energy and you're contagious. And you have this super huge adventure that you kind of went through COVID. And so I would love to start this whole thing out with you kind of talking about that adventure, like what prompted it, and just tell us about this amazing adventure that you had through COVID.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And hi, everybody that catches this. In COVID, I went on so COVID, like it hit hard in March, right? And
Yep.
I lived by myself. My extra bedroom was an office. And so for the first month of COVID, for me, it was great. It was like slumber party. You know what I mean? Other people were living with their families and going nuts because they'd never done it before. And I was just like, This is fantastic. And then like second and third month, it got dark because then it wasn't fun anymore. And I was alone. And like, there was no hugs, there was no nothing. And after about 3 months being in my apartment and just, I was I was split both. I was doing performance coaching for teaching people online business. And I was doing, in LA, I was doing high-end personal training in home. So I would drive around all over the place. Nobody was in anybody's home. So all of my business was now online. After a few months, I was like, this sucks for life. It's like, it's
not working.
It's not working. And I had a friend that was in Guatemala at this place called Lake Atitlan, and we were connecting all the time. She was actually coaching me on something in particular. And every time I was talking to her, I'm like, oh my God, she was going to parties. She was living like right on the lake in this little apartment for $350. It was really nice and just having a pretty fabulous time. Like it was hard to catch her because she was always running around doing stuff.
Yeah.
And I have always, like in my life, I had worked for myself and, there were vacations and things, but I was in relationships, I was dealing with codependency. So there was a lot of opportunities that I missed in life to see the world. And it is always something I wanted to do. So I started wanting to go and just get out. So they were closed down. And then must have been the beginning of September, somewhere around there. My friends, like, they're about to open up and let people in. And so when they did, it was on a Monday and I sat with it, not running to race into anything. But by Friday, I gave my notice at my apartment.
Yeah, I was going to say, but you kind of did, right? It was like boom, boom, boom.
Well, yeah, but it's like I've learned to regulate myself because I'm, as in the world that we're in, I'm a promoter. And so it's like, yes, I want to do everything. And now I'm like, oh, yes, I want to do that. But I'll usually at least 24 hours. And I mean, that was a rent controlled apartment in West Hollywood. Like it was gold. So 30 days. And I had 30 days to get out. So, I asked my dad to come and take some of my stuff, just my art and some clothes. I got rid of tons of things. And 30 days later, I was on a plane to Guatemala.
It's crazy. I mean, you hear about this, right? You hear about people doing this of like, just like selling everything or just getting rid of the stuff that they don't need and literally just taking the leap to do that. So were you like, what was coming up for you during that time? Were you just like, hell yeah, I'm going? Or were you scared? Was there fear involved there? Because you're moving to another country in a time where Like it's kind of hairy, scary all over the
There,
place.
there was a little bit of, well, I mean, there was definitely some fear around it. It was, what if this isn't the right decision? Those kind of things. There was also a medical issue where I wouldn't be able to get access to the medication that I needed anymore. And I really got to look in the mirror and be like, you're either stuck here, like living a life that you don't want, or just give it a shot and see what happens, like,
Yeah.
and so it was like in those 30 days, there wasn't a lot of time because it was very difficult to get rid of things because nobody wanted to come to your house. So I had to find friends and friends of friends that would take things because I had a whole apartment. It was all set up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I wanted to see everybody. A couple of friends came one time, and they came like one time she came, there were a couple. And so she came and we're walking down the street and I'm walking because I was not interested in masking unless I absolutely had to. So walking outside, I'm not wearing a mask. So I would walk outside of the cars and then she would walk on the inside on the sidewalk and we'd go for walks in the neighborhood. And then they both came to see me, did the same thing. I got back to the house. It was like the day before I was leaving and they had a surprise for me. So they had me turn around. They went into the trunk of their car and I turned her over and they were both covered in a blanket and they wanted a hug. That's how serious it was, but I just
Yeah.
have to do this, and I got rid of everything. There was just some precious things, art and clothes that I wanted, but all of my furniture I got rid of because I was like, I didn't want to like just pay for a storage. I didn't want to have to go back to LA. I was done,
Yeah.
I was just like, let me go for it. And
How freeing was that?
it was amazing. I'll share a beautiful moment. Well, it's one of my favorite moments in life because it was just unusual. So I first went to this town, Antigua, which is, it's like a colonial town. It's really nice. My friend said, start there because it's like in between city and country because I really moved to the country at this lake. So start there for a few days, then go to the lake, which I did. And then I had this adventure getting to the lake. It was a whole mix up with the car. And then they sent this I got into this weird car. I was meant to leave at like 10 a.m., leave at 9 p.m. into this weird little car. Like no car like this has ever picked you up before.
Totally different country.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, these two guys, speaking Spanish to me, and they're like Spanish was both of our second language, right? So we start driving, and they're talking to each other, and in a Mayan dialect, right? Anyway, so we get on a freeway, and we're going this direction. Everything seems like normal, like we're just going, and then all of a sudden they're like, they're going back and forth, and then there's a place in the freeway where you can turn around. And so they do a turnaround and it didn't seem like there needed to be that conversation. Like if you have to go that way, you got to go that way. So I'm like, is this about to get weird? Like, am I
What is happening right now?
My mind went to the worst case scenario, things happening to my stuff, to my body, all the things. And I was like, well, we're just going to have to trust. And, and then it turned out fine. And it was took forever to get there. And then when we finally got into the lake, you go down a lot of twists and turns. And here comes the moment that really, that was a moment for me, but the moment that really hit me was we were on regular roads. Not the best, but normal-ish, like what I'm used to. Then it's just like, there's potholes and then there's no cement. We're on rock and dirt road. And I had this moment where like, I don't even know where I am on a map right now.
Yeah.
Nobody I know knows where I am. Like, wow, this is the adventure of a life. Like I'm doing it, you know? And so, that was a moment that it was just so beautiful because it was like, this is wild. Like, where am I?
Yeah. That you allowed yourself to do that, right? Like that you allowed yourself to really step into that is incredible. And not knowing anything about anything that's happening is crazy. So it was like the biggest lesson of all of it.
The biggest lesson, the next couple of years there was a lot of adventure, but there was a lot of alone time. There was a lot of time. The biggest lesson was to slow down. Nice. Like what I first learned when I was in Guatemala, because I ended up being there for 11 months. And there was, I lived in this gorgeous place. Like it was this gorgeous little apartment right on the ocean, or sorry, lake. And it was just
I
so
remember
beautiful.
some of the pictures. It
Oh yeah, and you wake up to the
was
birds.
crazy.
You go to sleep till like there's a symphony at night from the bugs. There's a symphony in the morning from the birds. It was gorgeous. Open up the windows. It's just green and lush and all the things. And one day I was working. I was working for other people as well as on my own business. It was about 6 p.m. and I finished work and I was like, oh, I should work on marketing for my stuff. And I was like, calm down. Like it was a good day. What I need to, it was where I lived in particular was beautiful, beautiful thunderstorms. And I had a corrugulated roof, which is that kind of goes like this. And so when the rain hits it, it's very loud. So I was like, I need to make a hot chocolate and a cacao and go sit on and watch the show. And I
Yeah.
just sat out there and listened to the rain and watched the lightning and cheered. I mean, there was sometimes where like there was so much lightning, it looked like daylight, and just be in that, be
Yeah.
present.
Presence. I hear you say present. You are present.
Yeah, and learning how to slow down. Also, there was many times I lived about a mile from like the main town where I'd go hang out and go to cafes and things. And it was a dirt road, and on one side of the road was the lake, and on one side was this gorgeous hill, mountain, I guess. And I'd catch myself walking and looking and thinking, doing calculations, thinking about, oh, I need to call this person, I need to do this. And I would stop and be like, you don't need to do anything right now except for look at where you're at, because
Yeah.
this is a moment in life. You won't be here forever. And when you leave, you probably will never come back and be here.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, I
That's
think that's
beautiful.
the
It's a
biggest thing.
That's such a lesson, right? Like being understanding that this is the only moment that you ever have in life and you were in a different country. What happened after Guatemala? You were there 11 months and then what?
And then I would almost got to the place where I was going to stay because I really liked it. It was
Yeah.
crazy cheap. But there was downsides. I probably would have stayed if the internet was better. Because
Mm,
sometimes there would be no power, so there'd be no internet. And it just,
yeah.
no,
You
that doesn't
can't
work.
really run a business when that's the case.
No, it's cute at first. Because all my clients were like, "Oh my God, this is such an amazing adventure." So something like
Yeah.
that would happen, and nobody cared, right? Because they
Mm,
were all like, "Wow, this is fun." But
yeah.
eventually that's going to stop. So I got invited to a retreat in Mexico in Tulum. So I decided to set up in Playa del Carmen. So I went to Tulum for like
Okay.
11 days and then I went to Playa del Carmen. I was there for 5 months. Then I went to Florida for a couple months to hang with a friend. And then I ended up in the Dominican Republic for 15 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like it's where I want to go with this because the podcast is your leadership legacy. And when we talk about leadership, it's not people with a title, right? We're all leaders. It's the leadership, the ways of being within us and all of that. And yep, exactly. And I think, what do you think holds people back from doing that? Right. Because it sounds so amazing. Like anybody that's going to hear your story is like, oh my God, you went and traveled all these countries and you went around the world and you were in joy and happy. Like, but yet there's something that holds people back from not taking that leap and doing it. What do you think that is?
Fear, societal expectations. I think, well, for a lot of people, because I wouldn't have been able to do it had we not with the income that I would, well, whatever. It wouldn't have worked as easily and well if
Sure.
I hadn't had live clients that all of a sudden needed to be online, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, I did lose some of those clients. I had to build different business, but that's fine, right? But I
Sure.
wouldn't. I wouldn't have felt as comfortable if I didn't have that. So I know a lot of people have jobs where they need to be there and things like that. So,
Yeah.
like for those people, like don't get mad at me. But you could start to work towards that. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
a lot of people that are working remotely now, and you can go to other countries where like whatever paycheck you're making, like the paycheck, like I'm in San Francisco now, that like the money that I'm making here goes way farther in the Dominican Republic. I'm also right by the beach, but there's different, things. So I think there's that. I think people, we've become very comfortable, even if
Mhm.
it's discomfort, if your life is like you're not loving it, you're used to that. Like we're
Yeah.
used to what we know, right? And
Right.
so I had no idea what I was getting into or where I
Yeah.
was going to go, what it was going to be like. And so
Yes.
for me, it was really I really had to ask myself, I was like, I'm dying inside. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And so another thing people have pointed out to me that is maybe different about me is like I will do whatever it takes to get to happy. Like
Sure.
I've stayed in a bunch of situations that I wish I would have gotten out of earlier, whatever.
Yeah.
I know it got me to where I am, but now I move faster. It's like, oh,
Right.
this,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
I'm
It's
not,
about like that ability to go quicker, to come back to joy quicker, to come back to it quicker and quicker and quicker.
yeah, I just think that, there's a lot of expectations that we've had, a lot of ideas of what, and everybody's starting to question everything, right?
Yeah.
So there's like ideas, like the younger kids are coming through. They don't want to buy a big old house and have a
Right.
mortgage and things like that. They're doing a tiny home, and some people are working for like a season, like in
Mm-hmm.
the industry, and then going off. Like I met a bunch of people and where I was that these guys like where they were like doing whatever they do with weed when it's time to harvest it, or
Got
maybe
it.
going to. I met another guy that would go back to like Switzerland during the winter and work in a high-end restaurant, serving all the people that came
Yeah.
there. And then you can go chill for a while. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like it's kind of expanding, and changing. And I think also like when I was speaking about, like when I look at my life, when I graduated high school, it was really hard for me because I had been struggling with addiction. And I had earlier, I thought, like back then, it's like you go to college, you get a good job, then everything is possible. I had messed it up. And so the
Yeah.
only place I could go was community college, right? Like I didn't know
Right.
about entrepreneurship. Like nobody had ever introduced it to me. And so,
Yeah.
like it's, there's a lot of more options now and things are shifting. So
Right.
I think that a
Right.
lot more people may start to open up to it. And it's like, you just gotta like your life is gonna pass like before you know it, we're gonna be old. Like
Mm-hmm.
not
Like
able
we're
to.
gonna blink our eyes and that's gonna be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like for me, it just I had built up enough regrets, and
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, no more. Like it's time to go.
Talk to us about the addiction. Like, what was
Yeah.
that journey, and how did that lead into you having the leadership to just go and do that? Because I know that there's a tie in there.
Yeah, well, my dad was a drug dealer. I sold weed one time when I was 4 because no, but I was just with the babysitter and somebody showed up, and it's like a very famous story that my dad was very happy with because guy tried to give me $5 for the weed, and I was like, it's 10. So that's where I grew up. By the time I was
Yeah.
15, I always looked at drugs as like, oh God, that's terrible. That's so stupid. I'm not going to do that. I'm going, it was the 80s. I'm like, I'm going to Harvard and I'm going to Wall Street and I'm getting rich. And
Right.
then, curiosity got the best of me and I like being up. I like having fun. And
Yeah.
so that became a thing, and I had access to it because that was in my home.
Right
And
there. Yeah.
so it was something that went on for many, many years. I'm a little over 4 years, like 4.25 years sober now.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And it's,
Mhm.
it's my second time in. I was there when I was younger. One of the problems that I've had, and one of the things that I'm looking at is like what I want to bring to the table is changing it because it doesn't like calling it a disease doesn't work for me. And I don't need to be right about this, but I don't
Sure.
experience it that way. Like I know how to party and I can get crazy and I like to medicate I don't like to be in pain. So,
Sure.
if I'm really, like
So
the
if you
reason,
have a headache,
yeah, like I want an
yeah.
aspirin, and
Yeah.
so when like the first time through, I was hearing all these stories about like I do believe that there may be an allergy. Like some people have like one drink and they lose everything.
Hmm.
Sometimes that happens for me, but it's usually during the daytime because there's something I have a rule about day drinking, or I had. I don't drink it all now.
Yeah.
And then sometimes just really upset, and it could lead to drugs, which was the problem for me. So, but there was
Sure.
times when I just go out and have like they say in AA, like, oh, try some controlled drinking. And I'm like, I would go out and have 1 or 2 beers all the time and go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't identify. What happened for me is I ended up in jail from a DUI, which was like such a blessing. And
Hmm.
for me, it was like, I will just never go to jail again. Like whether I'm addicted or not, I don't know. I mean, I have all kinds of isms. It feels like the
Right.
more that I get into it, I can definitely be excessive. I study it intensely. I do a lot of work on myself and I work with a lot of people. And
Yeah.
for me, it really comes down to I'm really looking at it. Like for me, it's like I go by Gabor Mate's, kind of teachings, which
Mhm.
he says that addiction, he doesn't believe that addiction is like a disease. He thinks that
Yeah.
it's a coping mechanism. It's
Sure.
a solution. And that's my experience personally. I think
I would agree with that.
that we have traumas.
Yeah.
And, the more that I dig into traumas, like we have this idea that trauma is this big thing. Well, they call it big T and little t, and so like big T's are like, divorce, molestation, beating, yelling, that kind of things, really bad stuff. I mean, things that seem huge. And then
Yeah.
little t is more being ignored, being told you're stupid, like things
Yeah.
that, you can brush off. But when you really look at it, what it does to a child, it changes the way that your brain works.
Yeah.
Also, as
Hmm.
children, we're hardwired to know that we need to be taken care of. We're the only animal that needs to be taken care of the way that we do, right? And we know it. Like I need this big person to want to take care of me. So we start to bend and change to, especially if our parents have dysfunction or alcoholics or, and
Right.
they had all their stuff coming. So it's like, it creates this thing where my experience is like, I was never able to be me. I was always morphing. And so when you don't know who you are and you don't have a strong sense of self, it's very disconcerting. And you spend a life like this. And so I was medicating,
Yeah.
and it led to a lot of the things that held me back.
Hmm.
It led me
Yeah.
into relationships where I thought I needed to be in relationship. I also had maybe a mild sex addiction. But also I liked this kind of like the status that would come with it. I liked what, there was sold the story of like monogamy and, which is not for everybody, but,
Yep.
there's just like, there's a lot that goes into like how you're raised and then how you're coping with it,
Hmm.
and I look at
Hmm.
everything, like every maladaptive behavior is basically an addiction because it's something you
Yes.
do in the short term to give you relief, but it has long-term consequences, but you can't stop doing it.
Yeah. How do you support people today that are going through, whether it's addiction or going through transformation or whatever it is?
The number one thing I think is like it's okay. I think what the feedback that I get is I make people feel really, really safe, really
Hmm.
seen. Like with me, you can never be more afraid than I was. Like, I mean, it was just, if I would have met you in my 20s on the street, we had a short conversation. Hey, what's up? How you doing? I would walk away and I would repeat everything that you said and I said in my head to see how stupid I sound. Like, was that okay? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
You'd
That's
analyze it.
Yeah, to make sure, like, am I okay? Was that okay? Like,
Yeah.
can I feel safe next time I see her? Is she going to think I'm an idiot?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, that's just like one example of like the level and the problematic,
Yeah.
thinking and behavior that I
Hmm.
had. So, number one, it's like, it's safe, it's okay, and it's totally normal. Like any kind of reaction that you're having, like, we get to dig into it. And I don't like to, like, you have to look at, like, there's some people that, like it's just like toxic positivity. Like, we're just going to affirm our,
Yeah.
move on. And it's like, I don't believe that. I believe that we have to look at it.
Yeah.
Like, as you're moving through life, you're just dealing. You're creating new neural pathways. You do, like, you're not actually grieving anything, like,
Yeah. Or healing.
or healing. When I left the country, I mean, I'd done a lot of work, you know what I mean? Especially, where I'd started like working on myself 20 years ago, but I never had time to really, and I didn't even know how to let it out. Like, I left in October of 2020, November of 2020, I animal cried every single day. At the end of the day, I would go out and do my thing. I would come back and I would just cry, just letting it out. There was these deep wells of grief in me because I just kept moving, like, that's what you
Yep.
do. And
Yep.
so, it looks
But you were
different.
healing in the process, right? Like that was your way of healing in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, that's what I needed to do, and then, yeah. So but with everybody, it's like, it's fine. It's okay. One thing, when I started coaching a bunch of years ago, my friend Emily, who
Yeah.
I'm friends with since I'm 18, she was so happy. She was like, we would be at the club, because we were partying our asses off back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we were partying. And so she was like, I remember like somebody would like, they puked in the club and you like drug them outside and looked them in the face and said, it's not great, but it's okay. Get in this cab and call me tomorrow. You're going to be fine, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
we all want to know that we're okay, So I
Hmm.
think it just starts there. And then look, once you really understand it, like first you got to get to understand it. And then it's your responsibility, like
Yeah.
it's no
Yep.
longer, we're doing things, automatically that we have no control over.
Hmm.
But then once we get it, then it's to change. And so there's
Yeah.
habits like looking at it from a perspective of people that I help with, diet and fitness, they're like, I want to go straight out of the gate and I'm going to go 6 days a week to the gym. I'm like, no, you are not. Calm down. You're going to start with 3 days. You're going to go light.
Yeah.
Like you start making shifting changes in your food, like because you're undoing patterns, and you're going to like different people react differently, and so you got to find like what works. Like something that I might prescribe to you may not work for your husband,
Right.
or your best friend.
Yeah.
Like, you got to put your twist on it and find out how
Yeah.
you, like,
Yeah.
what do you want? What's in the way? And how do we get you around it? That's what everything
Absolutely.
comes down to.
Yeah. Well, and it brings up a good point. So like so what's next for you now? So you're back here and you're
Yes.
talking about the fitness stuff. So I want you to talk a little bit about what's next for you.
Yeah. So now I've been working on getting back into speaking. Before I left, I'd done a bunch of facilitation. I had my own clients, more in the life coaching capacity. And I was doing a lot of coaching around how to create your business, but that's just basically that's that anyway. Like once you like the basics are the basics.
The basics are the basics, right?
And so now I'm getting back into like wanting to do workshops and speaking. And so I've just really created. I did a workshop back in 2019. It was really good on boundaries. So I pulled that up, updated it, turning it also into a keynote, so it can be more of like a talk. But I really love doing workshop work. So that'll be fun. And then I did another one on trauma and addiction, and just like booked my first gig. I'm going to be helping a group that's a smoking cessation group, going in and like introducing to them what does trauma look like, well, how is it affecting you, so that they can really understand how they're, like what's running them inside, so they can start to work with that. And
To
then
connect that trauma to the addiction.
yes, yeah, like, and that's why it's happening. You're like self-soothing and self-medicating,
Yep.
and it's okay, and it's totally normal and natural,
Yeah.
and but we got to do something with it, so there's that. And then the third one is really just on happiness. Like, look, I'm deep diving into why as a society we're unhappy, lonely, and like what can we actually do about it? Really looking at like how can I, help people that have like normal lives, right? Because something like mine is like I can help somebody with a big, that's like I got to change everything. Great, let's do it. I've done that a bunch of times,
Yep.
you know but also really digging into, something, how do people find meaning in their lives? A lot of people are having jobs that don't feel meaningful to them. How to really like deal with that internally and decide if meaning, like, is it like volunteering outside? Is it really just looking at what you're doing within your family and appreciating yourself more? Like there's moms that don't really, they're just doing, right? But they're not
Yeah.
really thinking about what a big job it is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
To guide and instill people like that are going to be
Yeah.
out there doing things, like, and
Mhm.
maybe putting meaning into that, but also not having that being all your meaning,
Right.
and so helping people, and also a really big advocate of people taking time for themselves and doing things that they
Mm.
want to do. I'm working with
Yes.
somebody who's running a, $1 million plus coaching company, and I help her with her fitness and her nutrition, and we just slowly changed the nutrition because that's what
Yes.
she needed. And also, like, now the other day she had a half VIP day that asked, I don't think I'm ready, can we move it to 2 weeks out? Absolutely. And she's like, and I didn't book anything else for the day, I just took some space. And she keeps
Yes.
taking space, and then great ideas are coming in. Number one, well, she's enjoying, like, a lot of people that are in a really like super like type A, like go, go, go situation. The way you gotta
Yeah.
like carrot, you gotta dangle is like, you're gonna get better ideas and improve your business if you do
True.
that.
Yeah.
That's how
I
I
have
can.
more stuff come up when I'm meditating than any other time. It's
Yeah.
true.
Well, I mean, the other day last
I'm
week,
like, I'm supposed to be meditating.
oh, you gotta say, just take a pause and write it down.
Yeah.
The other day
Write it down.
I was vacuuming, and I just started working on my new, talks last week, and like I finished the boundaries by Wednesday. Thursday, I cooked for 2 hours. I cook big pots of food and freeze, and that's how I deal with food.
Yep. Your meal prep.
I did that, and then I was vacuuming. And as I was vacuuming, the trauma and addiction, like I've been studying it, but I wasn't sure how I wanted to present it, the flow that really
Mhm.
worked and represented what I believe. And it came in. I just had to turn off the vacuum. Great,
Yeah.
there we go. 2 hours later, I had,
Yeah.
cut my hair, taking a shower, and was like, oh, this is the third one. It's on happiness, because that's what I'm obsessed with, is
Yeah.
being happy, finding
Right.
happiness, creating happiness, living, like creating your dream, even if it's just pockets. You know what I mean? Make a big change,
Yeah.
make small changes, but consciously enjoy your life, because you're
Yeah.
here. That's it, and that one came right through too, and so like when you create that space, and like sometimes I'll be getting into my stuff, and my mind will be like, oh my gosh, what could go 7 million different ways? And I start to get stressed out. I just walk away, unless I
Yeah.
need it to be
Yeah.
done.
Because you're forcing it at that point.
Yeah.
You're not
So
letting it flow. You're forcing it.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
just trust, and I ask, like, I talk to
Yeah.
God, like I have a higher power, and I also just talk to
Hmm.
myself, like, you know
Yeah.
what? You're all jumbled right now. It's okay. Just here's what we would like. We would like this section to come through. Sometimes it's a different section that comes through, whatever.
Yeah.
But just to really like be able to give yourself space and time, I think that's where you can tap into the like higher knowledge of the universe.
Yeah, absolutely. So the podcast is your leadership legacy, right? So when you think about legacy and you think about, you're doing some big work in the world, in the universe, what is the intentional legacy that you're looking to leave?
I'd say the number one thing that I love to give people is permission to live and love their life.
Yeah.
You know, um, I really like with the boundaries, like everything comes to happiness for me. Like I mean, I believe this is it. Like I'm in this adventure right now, and then I will go and I will be in another adventure. I don't
Yeah.
believe in, I'm not like a heaven and hell person. Like I'm not just done. And like I've already lived in hell, and so how can I get to like heaven? How can I
Hmm.
live, live in a way that really feels yummy to me?
Yeah.
And so I
Love
think,
that word.
but I believe that, I believe that I don't know what will ever happen on this planet if we can get out of war. Like, and I mean, I'm arguing with each other,
Yeah.
like people with their, mythical books trying to force their beliefs down other people's minds. It's like, just let everybody, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
get out of my business. Let me live my life and let me be happy. Um,
Hmm.
and so I believe that the more that people start to enjoy their life and to realize, like, even with my family, when I, came back to San Francisco and I was at my mother's house, and like I said something, and she thought she was like, oh, but I was just, I was like, whoa, 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 sorry, sorry. I don't know what's happening here, but I did not fly thousands of miles to be at war with you. Like, that's not what
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
Based upon also my past, because I used to be a little hellion, and then also
Mhm.
watching things on television where people are fighting with each other. It's like,
Right.
we don't have to be like that. I do not want to fight with anybody. Like, I am anything that I say today, don't reach out to me and try to argue with me. If you want to have a nice conversation, tell me what you
Yeah.
think, ask me what I thought. Why do you think that? Great. I don't need to be right. Like, I'm only trying to find what works for me and then offer that to other people, and that's how I coach. Like, whenever I'm talking
Yeah.
to somebody, it's like, take this. I feel like this might be helpful for you. And then sometimes, they completely switch it to something else. Great. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Matt,
Everybody thinks they knows what's going to happen when they leave here. I don't know. How could I possibly,
exactly.
you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. I mean, imagine a world, Monty, right? Like imagine a world where everyone was just living their life to their best, they're living their best life and not worried about everyone else. Just
Yeah.
in their leadership, living their best life and pouring into other people versus taking in war and all the stuff that we see going on.
Yeah, and
It'd be a much different
appreciate
one.
other people for being different. Like, we all, get to have our own opinions, and you know, and that's great. It's like, oh,
Mm,
let's have some interesting conversations.
yeah.
Enjoy each
So
other.
where can people find you, Monty? Because you're amazing and people should call you if they want a coach, a fitness coach, anything, all of it. So where can
Yeah,
they find you?
yeah, I'm a man of many trades. I cannot be boxed. Reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook. You will see this face, Monte Cox, MonteCox. Yeah, and I'm starting a YouTube channel, but I'm just doing videos for practice now. You can go look at them. I mean, they do have some good knowledge, but they're going to continue to get better. But I would say Instagram is probably the best, or just reach out to me on Facebook.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for being on. I've watched you for a long time from afar, and recently we've got to know each other a little bit better. And I want to say that you are powerful. You're a powerful human, up to big things, doing big things in the world. And I really appreciate you. So thank you for everything that you are and everything that you be.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing.
I'm so grateful that I have friends that are friends with you because but we've been on the periphery and now it's nice to actually get to know each other. So thank
Yep.
you for having me, and everybody do something lovely today. Just
Yes,
be nice to
absolutely. That's what
yourself.
we'll leave with. Go do something awesome. Go do something lovely for yourself. All right, everyone. Thank you. We'll see you next time on Your Leadership Legacy. Bye-bye.
My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.